Chapter 121, Sword 4. Oh my god. The crowd from afar couldn't help but watch in awe. This move was too terrifying, unlike the last 10,000 swords return. This time, because the number of people watching the battle around was too small, Shen Tuji chose to use the surrounding boulders as a boost. From afar, it looked like a stream of rubble rushing down in the sky, as if it was going to bury Kang Chon's entire being together. This move was too terrifying. A sense of shock rose in Kang Chon's heartland, but his eyes were filled with a world-shattering battle intent. This was the kind of battle he wanted. Heaven-breaking. Kang Chon executed Broken Sky for the third time. This time, he exploded 10% of his true essence. All the true essence in his body was mobilized by him and furiously surged into the black long blade. Under this massive infusion of true essence, the black long blade erupted with a golden light, like a golden sun, emitting a blazing radiance. A blade that breaks the sky is invincible. Kang Chon let out a low shout as he raised the long blade high and slashed straight upwards at the sky, seemingly to split the entire sky in half. Peerless energy surged up from Kang Chon's body, finally converging in the long black blade before it gushed out along his blade. This energy, which was like a galaxy pouring down, collided with the torrent of debris pouring down from the sky. Rumbling, violent explosions were heard in the ears of the surrounding crowd, and the field was covered by blazing light and countless rubble, so no one could see what was going on in the field. I don't know how long it took. Just when the surrounding light and debris were about to fall out, an icy cold to the extreme voice rang out. Sword 4. GNC. An extremely cold voice rang out from amongst the endless rubble and smoke. And instantly, it was clearly transmitted into everyone's minds, just like the mysterious ice in the depths of the North Sea, causing a bone-chilling coolness to rise from the bottom of one's heart. Accompanied by this voice, the field immediately rose an incomparably large and cold sword momentum, that powerful sword chi, destroying the general rushed straight to the sky, and finally stirred. The whole sky is trembling. At this time, the smoke gradually dispersed. The crowd also clearly see the situation in the field. In the Shen Tuji's third sword, Kang Chon and Shen Tuji still stand in place, who did not retreat half a step. Obviously, even with that incomparably intense strike, the two still did not have a winner. At this moment, Shen Tuji was ready to execute the fourth sword. His entire body was enveloped by incomparably blazing sword awnings and an incomparably vast sword. Momentum erupted from within his body, sweeping across the heavens. His eyes were incomparably cold as he looked at the opposite side of Kang Chon. A blazing fire reflected in his ice-cold eyes, and his bearish battle intent was like 10,000 horses galloping, shaking the entire space. Surprisingly, there is still a fourth sword. Kang Chon's eyes shrunk. His heart was incomparably shocked. The sword momentum that erupted from Shen Tuji's body had reached a kind of critical point. It seemed as if the intention would be born at any time. This was the most terrifying sword momentum he had ever seen. Under this feared sword momentum, a powerful sword pressure emanated from the sky, causing the ground around him to crack. Everyone closed their breaths and stared intently at the two people holding each other on the field. Good fellow, this kid is also on the verge of giving birth to an idea. You kid won't be able to block this sword this time if you don't exert the strongest power of the heaven-breaking. The Dan Emperor's exclamation came from his mind. Shen Tuji was only a hair's breadth away from comprehending intent at this point. Although it was not as good as Kang Chon's 2 layers of intent, Shen Tuji's cultivation was much stronger than Kang Chon's. So this sword had already created a dangerous realm for Kang Chon. Since that's the case, then let me cast Broken Sky with all my might. Let's see what level of power the 20% intent enhanced Broken Sky will reach. Kang Chon said indifferently, a blazing battle intent pulsing within his eyes. Along with Kang Chon's words falling, the Kang Chon hegemonic blood in his body boiled violently. The vast golden true essence in his meridians gradually surged and surged, and an invincible hegemonic intent slowly penetrated through his body, ultimately forming a powerful hegemonic idea piercing through the sky. This scene could not be described in words. If the aura that Shen Tuji had erupted was a shocking sword chi that rushed straight into the sky, then the hegemonic intent that had erupted from Kang Tion's body at this moment was a majestic peak that pressed the surrounding crowd to breathe. The only ones who were able to relax at the moment were a few Yuanying stage powerhouses. Kang Tion, who possessed 20% of the idea, had the absolute right of pressure amongst the cultivators below the Yuanying stage. Even the strongest of the 9th level of the Jiden stage had to be submissive when facing this idea pressure. And after Shen Tuji's sword momentum touched this terrifying pressure, it was immediately like ice and snow meeting the sun, and began to rapidly melt. What a terrifying talent! This son's intention has actually reached the 20% realm. He hasn't even stepped into the Jiden stage R, and he's already comprehended 20% of his intention. The Demon Yuan City Lord was incomparably shocked. Even he, a Yuanying stage powerhouse, had only comprehended 50% of intent so far. Now, this youth in front of him, who was only 20 years old, had actually comprehended 20% of the ideas at the foundation establishment stage. This kind of talent made everyone gasp in amazement. The Zhong clan's advocate's gaze was incomparably deep, with a hint of eeriness amidst his astonishment. As he looked towards Kang Tion in the arena, his face gradually becoming gloomy. Beside him, a middle-aged man said with a face full of gravity, "Big brother, it's fortunate that you drew the empty lot, or else I wouldn't have the strength to proceed to the next match even if I defeated him." Upon hearing this, a sinister smile appeared at the corner of Zhongli's mouth as he laughed coldly. With Shen Tuji's sudden involvement this time around, even if he defeats Shen Tuji, he won't be a match for you anymore. Hey, it's just that it's unavoidable for our Zhong family to do so. The middle-aged man revealed a hint of hesitation, a trace of shame flashing in his eyes. No need to worry too much. We didn't break the rules, not to mention that since they, the Yun family, can invite the Overlord to participate in the battle, why can't we play a little trick within the rules? Humph, Zhonglai snorted coldly. The middle-aged man stopped speaking. Their sights returned to the field once again. After Kang Tion exploded out with a powerful intention, Shen Tuji's sword momentum had already coalesced to the extreme. His circumference had been compensated by sharp sword chi, and a terrifying sword chi went out from the surface **** of his body. On the ground between Shen Tuji and Kang Tion's separation, a 10 feet long chasm had already dented down, and around the chasm, a spider web-like crack continued to spread. Come on. Kang Tion slowly raised his black long knife. His eyes were as cold and stern as a blade. His whole body's true essence surged. All of it poured into the long knife in his hand. Suddenly the airwaves around him rolled, and the powerful chi was rampant. On the opposite side, Shen Tuji's eyes were incomparably cold. His ice-cold eyes were permeated with a shocking battle intent. As he let out a low drink, all the sword momentum and an incomparably bright sword on converged together, rushing towards Kang Tion. Sword 4, break the sky. Kang Tion roared. The invincible domineering chi quickly merged into the black long sword, and a terrifying pressure swept out, immediately followed by an incomparably blazing sword aura. In a flash, the two extremely fast-running comets collided together, erupting into a shocking explosion. The crowd watched in disbelief. This final strike was not as shocking a scene as the previous one, and some people didn't even look closely before hearing the terrifying big explosion, followed by their eyes being blinded by the blazing light. No one had expected Kang Tion and Shen Tuji's final strike to be so fast that it was difficult for all but a few Yuanying stage powerhouses to detect it. The sword path itself is known for its speed. The so-called sword under the world is only fast and unbreakable. That's how it is. Demon Yuan City Lord sighed. Shen-Taji's sword reached the ultimate in speed. This alone made all Jidan stage cultivators incomparable. I'm afraid that only Yuanying stage could have such a fast speed. Then why's Overlord's attack also so fast? Someone asked this. That's because of the intention. When the intention points, the attack arrives. I didn't realize that he not only comprehended the idea at a young age, but he was also able to fuse the idea into his attacks. This alone is something that even some Yuanying stage powerhouses are rarely able to do. The Demon Yuan City Lord was in awe this time. Although Yuanying stage powerhouses were able to give birth to ideas, those who were able to fuse their ideas into attacks like Kang Chon were few and far between, and only some people with good talent were able to reach this realm at the late Yuanying stage. Just as the crowd was shocked at the fourth sparring match between Kang Chon and Shen-Taji, the blinding light in the field began to dissipate, revealing a scene that shocked everyone, only to see that the originally flat competition ground had now been replaced by a huge deep pit. This deep pit was 12 feet deep and 100 feet in circumference in size, and thick crowd watched in disbelief. The crowd was shocked. This kind of terrifying power was like a battle between Yuanying stage powerhouses now. Look, where are they? Suddenly, an alarming cry caught the attention of the crowd. The crowd immediately spotted the whereabouts of Kang Chon and Shen-Taji. They were currently 1,000 feet away from each other, each standing on top of a small hill, coldly facing each other. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Kang Chon's mouth, but it was immediately wiped away without being noticed. There was even a surge of chi and blood in his body. Shen-Taji's last sword had caused him to suffer a light injury. This was the first time since his debut that he had been injured by someone head-on. It had to be said that Shen-Taji's strength was very powerful. Right now his strength was not much worse than the 4 masters of the Imperial Capital a year ago. A year ago, the 4G of the Imperial Capital could resist a Jidan stage 9th layer powerhouse. The current Shen-Taji also had such strength that an idle Jidan stage 9th layer powerhouse was not even his opponent. There is still Sword 5. Kang Chon looked towards Shen-Taji. Powerful battle intent flashed in his icy gaze. This Shen-Taji was really as expected with superb talent, a powerful opponent for him. Shen-Taji ignored Kang Chon. He stood on the distant hillside and muttered to himself, then walked towards the bottom of the hill. Heave. G&C. You're nothing more than that. HMPH. How boring. Let's just go to Welcome Spring House. It's been a long time since I've touched the arse of a girl there. Gianna, you're so too. You lost this time. You lost face. Face. Can face be exchanged for a girl's arse to touch? All of you shut up. I can't lose. Shen-Taji suddenly looked as if he was crazy, holding his head and yelling. He didn't know how long it had been until all the voices in his head had disappeared. And only then did he slowly raise his head, indifferently looking towards that distant Kang Chon, standing on the hillside, a wry smile appearing on his face. Kang Chon, I, Jian Wu, look forward to meeting you again. Shen-Taji hemmed and hawed, and then he rushed up to the sky and sent his sword away. On Cloudland Mountain, Kang Chon felt Shen-Taji's gaze before he left and could not help but reveal a trace of doubt in his heart. He found that this gaze was so unfamiliar, as if Shen-Taji had changed into another person all of a sudden. Strange. This brat is really strange. Old me feels that there is another soul inside his body. What a strange fellow. A puzzled voice came from Emperor Dan in his mind. Forget it. This is a powerful opponent. We'll eventually meet again in the future. Kang Chon retracted his gaze, then looked towards the Zhong clan's side, and asked indifferently, let's begin. Don't delay me any longer. After the battle with Shen-Taji, he felt that he couldn't delay any longer, and had to break through the Jidan stage as soon as possible in order to continue to increase his strength. Kid, Although your talent is good, but this kind of tone of voice talking to seniors, you have to be careful. Zhonglai smiled heatedly as an icy gaze flickered in his eyes.